Hi guys, this is Aaliyah's commentary, but today I'm going to be telling like a bit of like a story time about how I used gratitude to help get me out of my depression. And it started, my depression started once my parents got divorced, and after that, soon after that, that's when the drama in my life kind of just like really took off, and I wasn't used to all the stress, so it took its toll. And for, you know, all the young people watching this, if you are watching this, and if you don't know what depression feels like, it's kind of like, think of like a black hole in space, right? But it's like in the pit of your stomach, and the longer you're dealing with these feelings, the bigger the hole gets, and it's just sucking out all of the happiness and all of like just your essence. It's just like you feel like a hollow shell of your former self. The longer that hole is there, it's just like a void, and you don't know how to fill it. So me being who I am, like my whole life, my parents always did, you know, really well. They took care of me. They never had me wanting or needing for anything. So, you know, I had a very good childhood. I never dealt with depression before. I never had to deal with like really strong like stress before. So me, I thought that I could just wait, like if I just like, I don't know, I thought I could wait it out. Like, I thought eventually it would just go away and things would just get better. But I noticed that things were just getting worse and worse and worse. And this was going on for about 2 years. So what really got my attention was when I had this really bad dream. And I even told my dad about this dream because it was just so horrifying. What happened was I was laying in my bed, and I was like, for some reason I was looking up at the ceiling. Like, that's all I could do was look up at the ceiling, and I noticed like this weird, creepy, black, shadowy figure hovering over me, and I saw like spindly fingers reach, and they like grabbed my shoulders, and it was just shaking me. Like, it's like it was purposely trying to scare the life out of me. It wasn't until later on that I noticed that this was most likely sleep paralysis, but at that time I knew that that was an indicator that I was a little too stressed out, and I felt like it was time I did something about it. And around this time, I guess I thought the solution was to be a victim, and I started placing the blame and pointing fingers, and oh, it's her fault, it's their fault, this person did that to me, and so they're the reason I'm like this, and they need to do this to make it right, and this and that. And it's like I soon realized that that was not the answer. That placing the blame game and being a victim, that's the worst thing that somebody could do to their psyche, is to decide that whatever is going on is all this person's fault and they're a victim, and putting it on somebody else to fix you, to fix your life, to fix your situation, to change your mood. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility because it affects you, right? So once I came to that conclusion, I started to do a little introspection. I put my fingers down, I stopped pointing them everywhere, and I looked at myself, and I asked myself, like, okay, so what do I need to do to get through this? Like, I feel sick, I feel like I'm dying on the inside. This does not feel good. I want to be better. I just want to feel whole again. So around this time I was really religious, and I would pray every morning and every night. And in my prayers, the first thing I would do was go down a list of everything that I was grateful for. And I don't just mean like family and friends and stuff. I mean, like, somehow I got the idea that like everything is a gift. Everything, I mean, you could look around like right in front of you and find something to be grateful for. Like, at some point in history or in time, everything around you didn't exist. Like this, like, we're lucky to have all of this. We're lucky to be here to enjoy all of it. All the technology, AC when it's blazing outside, doorknobs, even doors, walls, I mean, anything you can think of. I realized that it was all a blessing, and it's so easy to find something to be grateful for. And I noticed how much better I felt after doing this. And at first I thought it was just because I was praying, I was, like I said, I was really religious at the time, and I thought that just talking to God made me feel better, which it did. But it was the gratitude exercise that I did, which was just listing, down things I was grateful for. That itself was the portion that really helped me out, because once I realized that everything around me was a blessing, it was hard to be sad. Like, it was hard. Like, it becomes a little harder to be, once you go down a whole list of everything, like, I mean, walls, your bed, blankets, carpet, food, water, AC, everything. Once you go down that list, it becomes a lot harder to see life as miserable. Like, when you're aware, when you put your focus on the good, when you put your focus on what you have, it's a lot harder to be mad. And this will make me feel better, but I noticed that my problems weren't going away. I was still depressed. So soon after that, well, actually it wasn't soon, it was like maybe a year and a half later, I finally decided to take it up a notch. And I kept praying, and I got the idea to, instead of just praying like a couple minutes every morning and every night and listing off things that I'm grateful for and just doing that, why not, like, during the day? Like, because it just seemed like so little time, which is why it didn't really help that much. Like, what if I dedicate the next 24 hours of my day to being positive and being grateful for everything that I have? And so this was hard, because I realized I was trying to completely, like, rewire my brain. Like, when you're going from certain like, okay, so here's what my thoughts sounded like before I started doing this, right? It sounded like, you're incompetent, you're not good enough, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, pretty much anything. Like, I was just insulting. Like, I started paying attention to my thoughts, and I noticed I was insulting myself all day, every day. It wasn't until I decided to do this that I noticed so whenever a negative thought came into my mind and told me something like, oh, there's no point of you even filling out that job application, you'll never get that job, don't even look at that dude, he is way out of your league, he's not even looking at you. Like, that voice, like, everybody has that voice that's just a douchebag that will literally say anything to inspire insecurity. And I noticed that whenever I engaged with those thoughts or that voice, my mood would go down, and just my spirit, my energy, everything would just be off. But I also noticed that when I ignored those thoughts, and I would just let them pass and then shift my thoughts to something else, something positive, that it didn't affect my mood at all. So anytime a negative thought would come up, and I mean anytime and every time, like all throughout the day, people need to understand this, like all throughout the day, every time a negative thought came up, I would let it pass. I wouldn't engage with it at all. And I would do one of two things. I would either say something positive, like I also had a list of positive affirmations that I would affirm to myself whenever a negative thought came up, or I would just, like I said, go down that list, or like find something right in front of me to be grateful for. Like, I'm thankful for the sun, I'm thankful for the clouds, I'm thankful, for that window so that I can look out and see this beautiful view. Like, whatever I did, whichever one of those two I did, I noticed that the more I did it, the less those negative thoughts would come. So I was journaling at the time because I wanted to see if this was actually gonna be working for me. So once I started doing this, I would, at the end of the day, I would write down how my day went. And like every week I would read through my journal entries, and I noticed that my days were getting better and better. Like, random things would happen, like I would just get random blessings, and just, I don't know, it just seemed like the more I practiced being grateful for everything that I had, the more God or universe or life, whatever you want to call it, gave me more things to be grateful for. I also noticed that the more I complained, the more I was mad, the more the more I worried about something, it seemed like life supplied me with more reasons to be mad and be worried and to complain. I actually have some examples. I wrote a couple of them down. When my tire blew out, and this was weird. Like, okay, so I had just bought a new car, and I felt like it was a lemon, because it was constantly giving me problems. So I'm driving down the road, and I'm going on a rant. I'm like, man, screw this car. This is a piece of crap car. Like, it's giving me nothing but problems since I got it. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to get a new car. Like, how long is it gonna take? And I remember mid-rant, and yeah, I was talking to myself. Mid-rant, my tire blew out. And I was like stuck on the side of the road for like 2 hours. And I remember thinking like, wow, what a coincidence. And then something like that happened again. Like, I was, my best friend, she had just gotten into a car accident. And I think I was on my way. No, I wasn't on my way yet to get her from an appointment. I was somewhere. But I knew I was about to drive over to her house, and I think I was going to take her somewhere to an appointment or something. And I remember feeling like, dang, like I'm so tired. Like I don't want to drive this much. Like this is too much driving. Like I'm tired. Like I wish somebody could drive me around. Like I low-key feel like a chauffeur. Like I was just like complaining. And I felt a little frustrated. And this was earlier during the day, like I think in the morning, maybe 11 or maybe even 12. It doesn't matter. But this was early in the day. So, you know, I went and I got my friend, and we had a good day. Like, we was chilling. But I remembered that moment where I was complaining in the car, because I told myself I was going to keep track of every time I complained, just to see if something like that tire incident would ever happen again. Like I started peeping like something weird. Like what a coincidence. Like that really threw me off. So I started paying attention. So I took note of that. And later on that day, I had a good day with my friend. And I went back home. I go to bed because it's nighttime. My mom called me at like 3 o'clock in the morning. That same day. Well, it was the next day technically, but you know, the same day. And she like, Aaliyah, I'm so sorry, but you know, I'm out with my friend, and for some reason the car won't start. And you know, we tried to Uber home, but for some reason my card isn't going through, even though there's money on it. I don't know what's going on. It's weird, but can you come get us? And just a few hours prior to that, earlier that day, I was just complaining about how I'm tired of chauffeuring people around. I'm tired of driving. And so now, at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of my dead sleep, I have to go and get my mom and her friend and chauffeur them back to the house. And I remember thinking like, wow, what a coincidence. So I noticed that earlier that day, I wasn't just complaining, but I felt like a little frustrated. Like, that's how I was feeling at the time. I felt a little frustrated. But I noticed that at that time, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, after Mom just called me and asked to pick her up, I felt frustrated. Like, I felt the exact same frustration. It's just times like 100. Like, I was frustrated again, but it was just magnified. And it was just so weird. It correlated perfectly to what I was complaining about hours, like just earlier that day. The third example that I have, and there's plenty. It's just one that this is just one that I'm talking about. This is what really, the third example was what really shook me and really got my attention and had me like, okay, stop calling everything a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. This is a pattern. Okay, so what happened was, I had just got this job. I was a server, and I was working during the day, but nobody was coming in during the day. Like, it was so slow. I wasn't making no money, And like for like a week or 2 weeks straight, I was just complaining like, oh my god, I'm not making enough money. You know, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. Like, it's basically just for 2 weeks straight, I'm not making enough money. I'm not making enough money. I gotta get some more money. Where can I get some more money? Like, just lack. Like, just all that's going on in here is lack. I need more. I need more money. I don't have enough. And I started brainstorming ideas on how to make more money one night, and I learned that Ubering was an option, and I thought, oh, maybe that's a pretty good idea. Maybe I should do that. So the next day, after I had this idea, I decided to Uber because I had the next day off. And the first customer that I had was cool. You know, I picked her up, took her to her destination, it was fine. But the next customer that I had, I picked him up, and my brakes blew out. So I couldn't even take him to his destination. So I made very little money, like virtually no money that day. And when I went to Pep Boys and got an estimate on how much that would take to fix, they said some outrageous amount, and I was out of a car for like almost a year after that. Like my car was just sitting in front of my house because I couldn't do nothing with it. I felt like I couldn't afford to get it fixed for like 7-8 months. And once I sat back and I thought about it, I was like, wait. So ironically, 2 weeks after, or 2 weeks before this happened, I had been complaining nonstop about how I don't have enough money. And so I came up with the idea of how to make more money, and now I can't do that. But also, because I don't have a car, I have to quit my job because I don't have transportation. I mean, I could borrow my mom's car, but school was just starting up. I can't have my mom's car all day, so I had to quit my job. So I had been complaining about not having money for 2 weeks straight, and then I'm put in a situation where I have even less. Like, I really didn't have no money. I really didn't have enough money after my brakes went out. And so I was like, wow, what a coincidence. But like, no, it wasn't a coincidence. Like, I learned then that I really need to stop complaining. Like, it really just makes things worse because you're putting your focus on the problem. So that's all you see. So you're just gonna keep being worried. You're just gonna keep getting mad. You're just gonna keep being depressed. But when you shift yourself and you're thinking about the positive, you're focused on the positive, that's when things get so much better and your problems just disappear. I'm not lying. And I'm curious if anybody else can think of a time where something like that has happened, like something like those examples that I just gave, like of a time where they were just mad and going on this rage rant, and something randomly just happened, but somehow, some way, it correlated to what you were complaining about or what you were mad about. Like what happened to you, like what went wrong after, it correlated. Like, has that ever happened to you? Because at first, I thought I was crazy. But stuff like that kept happening over and over and over again, and I learned that that's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. So it's not, oh, this is just a once in a, oh, this is just random. It can't be random if it keep happening, you know. Alright, so it's getting dark outside, so I'm losing my light, so I'm gonna wrap this up. So basically, after my parents got divorced, I had a terrible relationship. Well, not terrible, but I had, you know, a pretty, you know, bad relationship with my mom, my dad, and my stepmom. But once like every single day, I would have my list. I'm grateful for my dad because this, and this. I'm grateful for my mom because this, and this. I'm grateful for my stepmom because this, and this. And pretty soon, our relationship just got astronomically better. And I didn't even have to do much. I can't even remember if I did anything. I mean, it just took time. But if I hadn't dropped all the animosity that I felt towards my parents, and, you know, found reasons to be grateful for them and everything that they did for me or are doing for me and have done for me, instead of constantly focusing on the negative. There's no telling where our relationship would be today. And it would have been on me, because I was the one who didn't want to drop the animosity. I was the one who would have been focusing all my attention on the negative and all the negative things that happen, instead of focusing on the fact that my parents love me and they do so much for me and they want what's best for me. So gratitude changed my life inside and out, but it took work. Like, it was probably a year and like some change before I was right in here again. So yeah, gratitude, it helps, but if you don't take it serious, like if you're not willing to completely like shift everything that's going on in here, it's not going to work out for you. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because I look around and it's like so many people are just, they just walk around just so miserable. And I genuinely think it's because they were doing the same thing I did. Like, I guess it's easier. Like I said, this takes work, and it's easier to point the finger and blame somebody else and put the responsibility on them. But it's not going to get better. I promise it's not going to get better until you take responsibility. It didn't get better for me until it took responsibility, and that's why I'm making this video, because I feel like people need to hear that. So that's about all I had to say. If you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section. There'll be more videos coming, and I'll see you guys later.